This channel does not promote or encourage any illegal activities. All contents provided by this channel is meant for educational purpose only.
I enjoy salvia well to the point that it can be enjoyed. I've never had a negative experience per se, but all of my experiences were pretty terrifying. I've always had very vivid and sometimes lucid dreams, so I think salvia is particularly powerful for me. I tend to break through much easier than most other people I know. I'll tell you about one of my most powerful ones. I was sitting in my room in this natty green recliner in front of my computer. I had also drank some Blue Lotus tea earlier. I packed up a homemade bong with some really nice 50x extract that a chemist friend had made especially for me as a thank you. So the bong was packed and I put on some shpangle. With salvia, I find that it's best to smoke it in a bong and to just go at it hard. Pack up the bowl and take a huge hit, hold it in as long as you can, exhale and immediately take another huge hit. Just keep repeating this until you can't anymore. There I was, just ripping this bong as fast as I could, and I killed the bowl. So I start to repack the bowl, and during this reprieve I start looking around. At this point, I'm feeling very strange and giggly. I look at my computer and with all the wires and the way the monitor is, it looks very much like a squid. Just as I'm about to spark up the second bowl, divine moments of truth comes on. After a few more hits from the bong, I start to get the feeling that the music is talking to me. Like there's some message in it for me, and it keeps saying something's coming, you need to prepare because something is coming. Naturally, this freaked me out a little bit. Then suddenly I become aware of another presence. It's hard to explain what I felt, but basically I became aware of some being which was not currently on the same plane of existence or dimension as me. I then felt it enter this reality from a direction I can't really describe. It felt like this presence was calling to me from billions of miles away out in the stars, and it sort of originated out there and in a matter of seconds stretched into this plane and was suddenly in my room. To try and clarify, I didn't get the feeling that this being actually traveled from the stars, but that the doorway it used to enter stretched from my room to some distant star, and was a line in the mathematical sense of being only two-dimensional. The best I could describe it is, if you've ever read Flatland, I felt very much like the square did when the sphere approached him. So this being was now in the room with Emmy. It's really hard to describe the sensations and feelings at this point. I definitely had the feeling of a presence, but it didn't seem to exist physically. It was really unsettling. It felt like it was coming from this direction in the upper left, but not one of the normal directions, basically like it was sitting just outside this dimension and talking into it. It then started to communicate with me non-verbally, and it was only an impressions. But basically the impression I got was, "I've come for you." I asked it what it was, and it told me that it has been called Hermes, but that is not its true name. It wouldn't answer any more question about who or what it was. It told me I needed to come with it, and I basically said, I don't know how. Now with this, what I actually conveyed was many thoughts and emotions, like to begin with, I'm not sure where you are, what you are, and how you travel. I have no idea how to locomote as you do. It said, look in your hand. Now, at this point I was still holding the bong, and it still had a few hits of salvia left. However, when I looked down at my hand, I was holding a large cartoonish amanita-looking mushroom. But it was also the bong, if that makes sense. I told it I understand, got down on the floor into the lotus position, and started hitting the bong again. Now, up to this point I was slowly getting more and more out of it, as you can see, but I was still in reality. It's just these bizarre thoughts, feelings, and experiences were overlaying reality. But once I killed the last hits from the bong, I don't know what happened in reality. Most likely I was sitting on the floor slumped over, but in terms of my experience I was wide awake and aware. It was like the most vivid lucid dream. So after I killed the bong, it said I was ready. I then felt myself stretching out towards this area in the sky, a bit west of the Big Dipper. It was weird because I had the sensation of traveling through space but also staying still. Suddenly, it was if we went through this portal and the stretching feeling stopped. I found myself in a large empty field. I asked where I was and the messenger said, let me show you, and suddenly I felt myself become a large boulder. I don't know how to describe the feeling, I won't even try. It seemed ages passed, and indeed I felt season come and go, creatures live and die, and yet the field hardly changed. I cried out enough and turned back into my former shape. The messenger then told me to turn around, and I did. At the edge of the field, I saw a huge, dark, green, thick jungle. It was weird. The field just suddenly stopped and the jungle suddenly started. It was like a wall, almost perfectly straight and flat. It was so thick you could barely see inside. The messenger said something like I must go and left my presence in a manner similar to how it had entered it. I got a distinct vibe of fear from it. It's then I became aware of some sort of life in the jungle. I got the impression of countless beings in the jungle ... many minds. But when they started to speak to me, they spoke with one voice. They told me I was lucky. Very few people came here while living, and nobody for the last 1,000 years. I asked the voices why I was brought here, and they said because you called. Then the voices started calling me into the jungle ... enticing me. Come, they said ... come into the jungle, and we will show you such things. At this point, pure terror enveloped me. I can't begin to describe my feelings. I've feared for my life before, but this was different. The impression I got from the jungle was pure death. In my mind, I gave it the name Forest of Death, and suddenly in my mind I knew of parts of it. I had visions of dark, overgrown, and ancient paths and indescribable wonders. I wanted very, very badly to go into it. I got this weird feeling that it was important that I did, that there was something I needed to do, someone needed to be rescued, but I got the distinct impression that if I entered, I would never, ever, ever leave again for eons and beyond. I cried out something like I'm not ready, and there was this sort of stillness, and a feeling of acceptance and a hint of foreboding, and slowly my room started to fade into existence. For a few brief moments I was both in the field and in my room, and then I was just in my room. I was pretty shaken and terrified of being alone, so I immediately put on my coat and went to the store just to be around people. A week later to the day, my best and closest friend in the whole world died. Like and subscribe if you want to hear more trip reports like this one. Farewell.